Am I the antagonist for not wanting my girlfriend to name the child she's pregnant with after her deceased ex-husband? I, 35 male, have been in a relationship with Amelia, 26 female, for 6 months. Amelia was pregnant when we started dating, but it never bothered me. Amelia found out she was pregnant after separating from her husband of 2 years, Frankie, M28. And they were planning on co-parenting the child. On Monday, Frankie tragically died unexpectedly and Amelia was totally heartbroken. They had been together since Amelia was 14 and I've always suspected that she still loved him. Amelia is 8 months pregnant and had her last doctor appointment with Frankie the day he died, so I understand why she's so upset. However, a part of me is a little annoyed that she's mourning an ex so much. The conflict started when Amelia told me that she plans on naming her daughter Francesca with the nickname of Frankie after I told her that I want to step up and be more than just a stepfather to her child. I told her that's ridiculous since I'm going to be an honorary father to her baby. She yelled at me saying that Frankie hasn't even been buried yet and I'm already trying to replace him. I left because she was being hysterical and I was told by my best friend to be more considerate since Emily is still mourning. But if I actually did anything wrong, but if I did, I don't want to ruin this relationship when there's a baby on the way, so am I the antagonist? YTA, they knew each other for 12 years, you've known her for 6 months. There is no indication that Emily wants you to step up and be the kid's father, Mr. 9 years older than his girlfriend. Furthermore, if you didn't want to ruin the relationship, why did you do something so astoundingly selfish and hurtful? YTA. You're dating her, it's only been 6 months, and you want to claim naming rights on the kid that is not even yours? HARD, you're the a-hole. There's a lot more than that wrapped up in what you posted, but, dang. Don't expect to make it to 7 months. I'm sure the other posters will fill you in on all the additional red flags you showed. So let me get this straight. Less than a week after her ex-husband died, you're already irritated by her grief and stressing a heavily pregnant woman out because you're pissed she wants her child to have its father's name? Yeah, you're the a-hole. I'd go as far as to award you a H of the day if that were an option. You have no genetic relationship to this child. You never will. You have zero say over the child's name. And if you act this possessive, selfish, and dumb over her naming her own child, she should take it as a major red flag and drop you immediately. I do understand why you might be bothered by it. May as well go before the child is born. Gonna be real with you, even with you raising this kid from birth, you will never be its real father. Its namesake has cemented you as a forever stepfather, so if you aren't ready for that, now is your chance to go. Am I the antagonist for pulling out of my best friend's wedding because I'm not the maid of honor? My 27 female best friend, 25 female, of 10 years is getting married. Some background: my friend lost her father and her 2 older sisters in a tragic car accident 7 years ago. I was her shoulder to cry on. She became attached to me as a second sister and grew closer to her only living sibling, her brother. She doesn't talk much about her relationship, so I was surprised and excited when she showed us her engagement ring. Maybe it was presumptuous, but I thought I was going to be her maid of honor. She didn't bring it up after her engagement announcement, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Fast forward to yesterday, when our group of friends got together and one brought up a conversation about the wedding. My best friend said that she was planning on formally inviting all of us to be in her wedding party. I asked her who was going to be her maid of honor, thinking it was going to be me, but she said she was going to choose her brother, 29 male, instead. I blew up. I told her it was ridiculous that she was going to choose her brother to be her man of honor. She looked confused and upset, reminding me of how much her brother means to her. I reminded her that I'm her best friend and that she's taking this opportunity from me. She started to cry and apologized, but said that her mind was made up and that her brother deserved that role. I was upset too and told her I wouldn't be attending her wedding and that I couldn't believe my best friend would betray me like that. Our friends think I'm being dramatic, but I'm really pissed off. Am I the antagonist? Edit: I get that she's close to her brother and she's honoring her lost family, but it's kind of ridiculous to have a bunch of girls as bridesmaids and then a man as the man of honor. I'm heartbroken. Edit 2. For people commenting about walking down the aisle, I think she plans on having her mother walk her. YTA, I can't believe your atrocious behavior. Are you for real? If I were the bride-to-be, I'd drop you like a burning hot potato. You are so TA. Get over yourself, this isn't about you. It's her wedding. Edit, you said you're heartbroken in your first edit? You? Boo fucking who? What about her after what you said to her? YTA. You're childish and rude. The fact you even think you're in the right is mind-blowing. You're doing her a favor by not being there. YTA. You're clearly not her best friend, because a true best friend wouldn't have acted the way you did. She doesn't get to have her father walk her down the aisle, she doesn't have her sisters there to pick out dresses, or their children to act as flower children, so she's taking that one honor and giving it to her brother to recognize all of them. You could not have reacted more poorly. Bridesmaidzilla has entered the chat. This might come as a surprise, but it's her wedding and not yours. You probably would have lost to her sisters too. Her brother is her only sibling alive, and if she wants to have him stand beside her, it's her choice. You don't sound like you'd be a candidate for support even if he wasn't around. Grow up. That's a really well-chosen username for you. She decides who she wants standing up with her. Nobody else. And to throw down with misogyny and get all but hurt over something that has less than nothing to do with you is just petty. Am I the antagonist for punishing my daughter for being an extrovert? My daughter and son are only 18 months apart but are completely different people. My daughter has dozens of friends and loves socializing and going out. My son has 2 friends he can go days without talking to, and when he's not at school he likes to be in his room reading. Sometimes I send him outside for a little bit of sunshine, and he just reads books on Libby with his phone on the porch. Recently, my daughter accused me of favoring my son and punishing her for being more outgoing. My son is almost never denied doing something he wants to do. I don't force my kids to do much with their free time. If their homework is done and their rooms are clean-ish, they can spend their weekends doing whatever. My son usually spends his weekend in his room, as I said. My daughter always wants to go somewhere. She usually asks me to drive her. If I can, I will, but sometimes there is a scheduling conflict. I also don't always have money to give her, which she usually asks for. One of the moms of her friends can sometimes pick her up, but again, she is usually going to a movie or the mall or a restaurant with a friend. She usually wants money, and I can't give her $40 every single weekend for hangouts. It's not financially feasible. I told her she might consider suggesting cheap or free activities to her friends, but she said that isn't what the group at large wants to do. I suggested she might get a part-time job, and she was upset. She said I've never told her brother to get a job, and he is 18 months older. The thing is that my son is cheap and easy. He doesn't ask for expensive books, and if he does, he asks for them as a gift for his birthday/Christmas. He reads stuff from the library or the internet. When he hangs out with his friends, they hole up in his room or play board games in the living room. Still, my daughter says he always gets to do what he wants, and she is often told no. It feels incredibly unfair to her. Am I the antagonist for telling my daughter to do less expensive hobbies or get a job just because she's more extroverted? Perhaps it's an option to just give her a predetermined allowance that you can afford? That way she knows what to expect and can earn the rest she needs herself. You could hire them both the same, and if your son wants to save most of his, that's his choice. That was what my parents did. Despite your clickbait title, you aren't punishing her for anything. You just aren't giving her limitless pocket money or lifts. It's not anyone's fault that your son is less demanding. Your parenting seems appropriate and fair. NTA. Your title is misleading. NTA, you are not punishing her for not being able to afford the level of socializing she prefers. Nor are you favoring your son. Make 2 ledgers. One of the money you give her and another for your son. Also include dates/times you have to drive. Your daughter has irrationally separated her emotions/wants from reality. Put it to her in black and white. From August 20th to September 20th, I gave you $200 and drove you to 10 activities spending 30 hours driving/waiting. In that same time, I gave your brother $50 and drove him to 2 activities spending 2 hours driving/waiting. Edited spelling. Your daughter needs to realize her going out and always asking for money is the reason you say no, because you need to be financially reasonable and responsible. Time for you to sit down and have a real talk with her about everything up. Set a limit on how much you will spend each month and stick to it. If she wants more than a part-time job is a reasonable suggestion. Am I the antagonist for refusing to share our nan's inheritance with my siblings? I 20F was my nan's full-time carer from when I was 13 to when she passed away when I was 19. My mom got in a huge argument with her and my entire family ended up cutting her off. I felt guilty, though, as it felt wrong to leave an old woman with mobility and memory issues to live on her own. She was too stubborn to get home help or to go into a care home. I spent my entire teen years caring for her on my own. I am the youngest of 4 siblings, but none of them wanted to help, so it was just left to me. She was difficult to live with. Very easily aggravated. Needed constant care. My teen years sucked. When she died, she left everything to me. I got her house and all of her money. My mom was mad at this, though. Claimed that my nan had done it to cause an argument between me and my siblings over money. My siblings didn't say anything about the money, they were fine with it. It was just my mom with the issue. She told me to split the money with them. I said no. That argument was roughly a year ago and our relationship has been rocky since. My oldest brother is currently having financial issues and I've loaned him some money. This has started the argument up once again. My mom says it's wrong that I've loaned it to him instead of giving it to him, and what I've given him is far less than 1/4 of the total amount I was given. I know I was initially in the right, but I'm starting to feel guilty about the loan. My mom is insisting again that I split the money, and I'm feeling worse and worse about standing my ground as time goes on. Am I the antagonist? NTA. Look, I'm approaching 40. I have a successful career. I have money. I can buy, within reasons 5-10K, anything I want. You know what I can't buy back? Time. You sacrificed very important years to you that you'll never be able to get back. Even if you could somehow get them back, it won't be the same. That time in your life is over. And unless the figure you got was high 6 figures/7 figures, I'd argue it sure as hell wasn't worth it. So no, you are not the asshole at all. NTA. Perhaps instead of thinking about the money as an inheritance, think of it as money you earned by taking care of your grandmother. There's nothing wrong with loaning your brother money that you earned. NTA, you earned that inheritance. It was good of your grandmother to recognize your service to her in her will. Your family did nothing to help grandma and don't deserve anything. Also, don't lend any more money. If your brother ends up not being able to repay you, then you'll only have lost the money you already lent him. And that's enough. Ignore your mom. She's not a nice person. Your nan didn't owe anyone anything. Not even you. She chose you as her heir because she loved you and she appreciated the sacrifices you made for her. It's also clear that she must have been proud of you. Don't ever let anyone make you think that you owe any part of that money to anyone. You put up with a lot in those years, and you gave up a lot. Your nan wanted to leave you with a good start to your adult life. Keep strong, and don't ever give in to doubt. You did the care, Your mom wasn't enough of a parent to make sure her young teen wasn't burdened this way. The inheritance is yours. You owe no one anything. Am I the antagonist for telling my BF to worry about his money and not mine? I, 26 female, have been with my BF, 32 male, for over a year. I have 2 cats that I adopted a couple months before we started dating. He has different animals since he lived in a farm, and he owns a small one outside, so he has chickens, ducks, a dog, and a couple other birds. Anyway, no to the point, a couple weeks ago one of my cats got really sick. It would cry a lot, and he is just not like that, so that same day I took him to the vet, IWFH. The whole time I was telling my BF, and he told me that he was probably just constipated and to get him something for that. I said I'm not a vet, so I can't just get him something like that. He said the vet bill would be so expensive and they always want to overcharge, etc. I still took him, and he has some stones blocking him from peeing, etc. They sent him a treatment plus a change of diet, and yes, it was quite some money, but I was not letting my cat just die. Now, 3 days ago, I had to go get them their new food. It is a bag that lasts 2 weeks and costs almost $100 plus the wet food. It's like $200 maybe. The vet said how lucky they are to have an owner that would do anything to make sure they're okay and can actually afford it, since he's seen some people abandon their pets, etc. My BF was with me, and he started saying how he would never pay that amount of money for a cat, that my cat's food is more of what he spends in all of his animals combined. That is a ripoff. I didn't say anything there, but when we got to the car, he would not drop the topic and kept going, so I said, who's paying for that, you or me? Me, right? Worry about your own money, that I will worry about mine. He got extremely quiet and mad. He has been distant lately and barely talking to me, said I was rude. I told my friends and said that I probably just got defensive, but should have said it in a different way. So am I the antagonist? NTA. You're not married, your money is yours, his is his. He voiced his opinion and should have dropped it after that. Hope your kitties are okay, smiling face with hearts. Point blank, it's your money. 1. You aren't married. 2. You aren't living together. To put it nicely, I tell your BF to go pound sand. NTA. NTA. And I could never trust someone with it's just a pet mindset. Just finished giving my pup her chemotherapy pills, so. Your money, your pets, your choice, your responsibility. I'd actually be a bit cautious getting into a more committed relationship with someone who was like that about pet health. He sounds totally self-involved and projects his value system onto you, rather than recognizing the cat is important to you, therefore it should be important to him. Am I the antagonist for telling my stepfather he isn't as deserving as my dad to fill the father of the bride role in my wedding? My parents divorced when I was 2. Mom married Vince when I was 5. I remember when my mom got married, Vince recited these vows to me about how he would be the best dad ever and how he would make sure he was there for everything, no matter what. At the time it sounded so forceful to me. I had a very active dad. I lived with him every other week. I saw him more often because he would show up to all my school plays and stuff. I knew I wouldn't be with them all the time, and it felt weird being told he was going to be my dad now. It never occurred to me to think of him as a dad. During the wedding reception, my grandma took me up to the room I was sharing with her and my grandpa, and I called Dad. Vince came up around that time and asked me why I had called him on his and my mom's day. He said I was breaking his heart calling him Daddy when I still called him Vince. My grandma had to tell him to back off. He told her he was the parent and he had more of a say than me. Once the wedding was over, I really felt his resentment toward my dad. He was super forceful too. When I was with him and my mom, they would pretend I had the same last name as them. If I corrected them, they would say at their house I was Vince's last name and not Dad's last name. It bothered me, but there was little I could do. He did a lot. He'd drive me places, take me out for dates and all that stuff. But it was always about him being my dad and me being his daughter. He would make it awful every time I went back home to Dad. Pretty soon Dad's house was home and Mom's house was Mom and Vince's house. My dad and Vince argued a lot. I think my dad tried to protect me from it, but Vince would tell me how my dad was mean to him and how did it feel having my old dad hurt my new one, etc. During this time, Dad gave up on dating. He had one relationship that ended because she was jealous of me having a mom in my life, and years after he told me he hadn't wanted me to deal with two step-parents or two houses where lots of changes were happening and new people were coming and expecting instant families. He knew it was a lot for me with Vince. Today, I'm 26 years old and I am getting married. I have contact with my mom and Vince still, but it's fractured, I won't lie. I asked my dad if he would walk me down the aisle with my fiancée and if he'd dance with the both of us. My fiancée is very close to him and has no family. Knowing Vince and my mom, I decided to sit them down and tell them my dad was filling the role solo. They didn't take it well and tried to tell me all the reasons they felt Vince deserved it. I told them Vince was nowhere near as deserving as my dad, who actually was a much better parent than they could ever dream of being. My mom pointed out I was their only kid. How they lost every pregnancy they had together, and how Vince has tried so hard to win my love. He was just mad I didn't think he deserved it. He told me I was refusing to look at his place in my life in a realistic way. Am I the antagonist? NTA, he told me I was refusing to look at his place in my life in a realistic way. Projection much. He's the one with a skewed perception of reality. NTA, you have a real relationship with your bio dad, not the guy who tried to win your love. Did your mom and Vince really think Vince was going to be the one to walk you down the aisle? He's a flaming narcissist. He doesn't care about you, your feelings, or your father, who loves you and sacrificed for you. Vince wants to win you, and Princess Jasmine told me that women are not prizes to be won. Relieved face. NTA. You had a father and Vince tried to force himself on you in an aggressive and disrespectful way to your relatives. He went about it completely the wrong way, even if what he wanted or thought he was doing was something genuine. In the end, his own behavior cost him a valid relationship with his stepchild NTA. T sounds like your mom and Vince tried to push you onto a relationship with Vince you didn't want and kind of erase your dad. That's wrong. Also, it's your wedding, so you can have whoever you want to walk you down the aisle, and your mom and Vince just need to suck it up. The other thing that isn't okay at all is them using the fact they couldn't have other kids to kind of emotionally blackmail you into letting Vince play a part in your wedding. Not cool.